Hi, everybody. Welcome to my channel. This has got to be like the weirdest intro I've ever done in my whole life. Anyways, so today I'm interviewing Jonathan Small. And if you don't know who he is, what is wrong with you? Like, do you not, do you live under a rock? Because if so, you need to get out of that. Look him up. He's absolutely amazing. I have somebody at my door. I'm gonna have to pause this for a second. Right. Okay. So that was my flatmate. She just came in to say hi, and she's sitting with me here. And she's gonna try and not distract me, but I feel like she will 100% distract me from this intro. What was I saying? Right. So I'm interviewing Jonathan Small. He's kind of cool because he talks a lot about how you need to know your value as a podiatrist. And if you listen to any of his interviews he's done with Tyson Franklin, his talks at the Foot and Ankle Show, he reiterates the fact that a lot of the times podiatrists don't exactly charge their value, and we don't know why. Like, we have a hypothesis of why this happens, but if you go to a lot of people that are high value, that we see as high value, they charge for their services. They charge for the quality of service that they provide. But why are podiatrists not doing that? Why is there a difference? So we kind of get in depth about that today. We also talk about how he started off as a podiatrist, what inspires him, what advice he has for new grads, even students that are studying at the moment. Because I'm in year two, I won't be graduating till, like a year's time. So even for students that are still in the course, not exactly graduating at the moment, like, he has really good advice for us. And I think we should definitely pay attention to this specific interview, and it will definitely help us in the long term. So stick around the interview. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you think, what questions, and how you'd like to reach out. I've left all the links in the comments description as well, like I always do with all my YouTube videos. I leave access links to all my guests, so you can contact them. If you have any queries, you can definitely contact me as well. Stick around for the interview and let me know what you think. Okay, thanks. Bye. Hi, Jonathan. How are you doing today?
Hi, thanks for inviting me on, Hector. It's lovely to meet
Thank you
you.
for coming. I'm glad to have you here. I was just recently watching your interview with Tyson, and I really like how he introduced you as a serial offender for
Yes.
his podcast. I thought that was really amazing, but I really enjoyed your podcast, Foot Value.
Yeah.
And I was kind of going over the questions I'll be asking you today, and I thought, wow, like, they're really mediocre in comparison because they're very, very basic. Whereas you and Tyson talk a lot about really important, deeper rooted issues in the podiatry community, which is basically just knowing your own value as a podiatrist.
Yeah.
And not really and I completely agree with you, and I've seen this across the board as well. But a lot of podiatrists, they will not charge a lot of bucks for their service. And this is it can be problematic. And then you also speak about how it can be problematic for the community itself, and also for the practitioner, because when you see one practitioner charging more than the other, you're kind of like, well, why are they charging more? And then as a whole, you kind of think that, well, podiatry is probably not that useful if they're not charging as much. And I'm pretty sure, like, I've summarized that in like the worst way possible, but I I really like how you guys were talking about that, and I really resonate. And I love Tyson's podcast. Like, he's absolutely fantastic, and he'll absolutely say it as it is.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, I mean, the advantage Tyson and I have, we've both been in it the same amount of time in the profession, same amount of time, had very similar experiences, but also different experiences that complement. So we can just chew the cud for ages. And if people want to listen to that, then that's great. If they can gain something from that, they can learn a bit from that, then that's brilliant. I think one of the problems is that in our profession is that we tend to lock ourselves away in our clinics and not get absorbed into what's happening in the real world. And I know I was as guilty as that as anybody else. Now, social media has helped a great deal with that, obviously, but it does mean that you have conversations in your own head that aren't real, and you put all these mindset blocks in place that aren't real, because you just make it up. as opposed to actually seeing what the reality is. And the reality is that people value their feet and value the solutions that we provide for their feet.
Yeah. 100%, and they will pay for it as well. Like they're happily gonna, if they can pay like $300-$400 or pounds in this instance for, dentistry work or proper dental care, like of course they're gonna, pay as much as they want for their proper foot care as well, and to be
That's
to
right.
be at the end of the day be taken care of. Like, in our
Yeah.
old age, we really want that, we really crave that. So for sure, I think
Well,
it's a really
it isn't
excellent
just
point.
old age either. It's anybody who's active, wanting to be active, taking part in their favourite hobbies, dancing,
Yeah.
walking,
Oh
running,
yeah.
whatever it is. If you're in pain, you can't enjoy those activities. You can't spend the time with your grandchildren enjoying playing with them.
Yeah.
Or if you want to go somewhere special, though nobody's going anywhere at the moment, but when you can get and put on your nice shoes, then and you can't do that because of your feet are hurting you, then it's quite valuable for somebody to come along and fix that for you. And of course, that's where I think podiatry really has the ability to absolutely thrive, is in fixing feet, as opposed to the palliative care side, which is important. But I think podiatry's future is in the foot resolution of foot problems.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So to get into our first question, how did you start in podiatry? Was it always podiatry that tickled your fancy, or was there
No,
another
I'm
field?
I'm a medic that didn't quite get there. So when I was doing my A levels, medicine was the opposite. I was a maths and science guy, and medicine is where the thing that you got pushed towards. And I was quite happy with that. But a couple of things worked against me. One of which, I got a girlfriend in the middle of my A levels. Not a great time when you're going to be studying to suddenly explore girls, find out about
Riley
girls.
said something similar as well.
And the other thing is my biology teachers were botanists, had no interest in human biology at all, and so we got very little in human biology, and it was all about plants, which I really wasn't interested in. So the grade that let me down to get to medicine, to get to med school, only by one grade, was my biology. Now, right. I could have gone on, I could have done something about that, but my uncle was a chiropodist, a state registered chiropodist. I saw the standard of living he had, nice house, nice car, nice family. I thought, well, you can't ask for more than that. So, so that was my backup plan. Fortunately, there was no way I couldn't get into podiatry, into chiropody then. It was only 2 E's at A level I needed to get, so it was fairly straightforward to get in. And I started at Cardiff in 1987. And it was a brilliant city to be a student. Don't regret anything about my decision to go and do chiropody and lead on to podiatry from there.
So for a lot of, and I get this question a lot, and I don't know what to say sometimes, but what's the difference between chiropody and podiatry, and how would you put that in a sentence if you could, for a lot of us, because a lot of us students, we get asked this and we're just like, I don't know. So if you could summarize the difference, what would it be?
So A, I can't put it in one sentence, but B, I did write a long blog on it. So if anybody wants to read up about it, I just send them the link to the blog, because you can't explain it in a sentence. Because some people just say they're the same, and that confuses the public. And then the public will go, oh no, podiatrist is more foot specialist, and that then confuses the chiropodist podiatrist. So it's all a mess. So I just say, if you want to learn about it, here's my link to my blog. It's quite a read, but an informative read about explaining all the differences between chiropodists, podiatrists, and foot health practitioners.
Yeah, the foot health practitioners. I keep forgetting about them because we all just kind of get like muddled together, I feel. There's not really like a clear description, like, okay, this person does this person does that. When you were new grad, what were your first experiences like graduating from podiatry?
Yeah, so I got a job working as a senior 2 back then for Oxfordshire, which would have been band 6 equivalent going in.
Okay.
I was working in Banbury, not far from you. And I got put in a clinic cutting toenails. And I thought, what on earth is this about? I've just spent 3 years learning about feet, doing the physiology and anatomy of the human body. My final
Yeah.
examination paper was on the treatment of stomach ulcers. I'm stuck in a clinic cutting toenails.
Oh
It
no.
is not what I expected when I graduated. Okay,
Yeah.
that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
And I tried to reach out to get some growth going, and it just wasn't happening because they just wanted you to sit there and cut old deer's toenails. That was it in the NHS then. And so I thought, I'll just set up in private practice and I'll do what I want to do. But then I got a new manager in there, and he got me into diabetic feet. It was just becoming a thing around diabetic foot care.
Right.
Alethea Foster at King's in London was one of the key people with Mike Edmonds promoting multidisciplinary care to diabetic foot problems. And I got into this, and so I went on to be a diabetic foot specialist then for Warwickshire.
Okay.
Which I did for 8 years.
Wow. Okay.
Which was much better than just sitting cutting toenails, as you can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did that extend your scope of practice? Because like you went from toenails and then or from cutting toenails, and then what did that include? Like what else were they?
Yeah, so basically my job when they got ulcers, infection or gangrene, to stop them being amputated, I ran the hospital clinics on my own. I developed the team structure around it, so I pulled in the vascular surgeon, the orthopedic surgeon, the orthotist, and the diabetologist. And we got a good team approach to the high risk diabetic feet. Yeah, I mean, it was great. It was a pressure job, as you can imagine. And I did that, as I say, for several years. And then I got the opportunity to move into gait and movement analysis, which is using the 3D Vicon system. What forms part of Run 3D these days? Okay. That was way back then. It was a system that needed to be integrated, so they brought in some people to help us with that. And we set up using PEDAR, force plate, EMG, 3D Vicon, and so we took those patients who had strokes and head injuries or the highest diabetics and tried to get them into a better place with their gait and movement, and learned a great deal about human biomechanics in those days. It was a really good time. Unfortunately, they closed the lab after 4 years because it wasn't making enough money for them. So then I've been trained to such a super specialist state in the NHS. So I got my diabetes and I got my gait movement analysis. You'd think that was awesome. No, they had no job they could offer me, so they made me redundant.
So you were too qualified.
I was too qualified for the NHS.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't think that was possible. I thought, with the NHS, I thought they would want more qualifications like that would kind of...
Ludicrous. 12 years.
Yeah.
And they went bye-bye. So I just focused on my private practice then. I'd already started a bit on the side. I'd been running it for a little while, but I really focused on it from 2002 onwards.
Wow, I would be very, very salty. Like that's a lot of years to be with somebody and then just go bye-bye. Like that's got to be worse than a breakup for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, I'd even been offered a chance again for a PhD in that time with the lab, but by personal reasons I declined, and I'm glad I did because I could have invested a lot of time and effort and it wouldn't have gone anywhere. That it might not be taken up. But I don't regret it because what I've done with private practice and now what I'm doing to help the profession around private practice is just awesome. So
absolutely, I think it's 100% phenomenal, and a lot of us grad students, we definitely look up to that, and this is why I really wanted to sit down and speak to you today, because a lot of students have been asking, like, once they graduate, what does private practice look like for them? Like, what are some kind of key tips that they need to look out for when setting up a private practice? And I know when I speak to qualified professionals and podiatrists, they kind of say like, well, once you graduate, don't set up a private practice immediately because, it's good to get some experience, under your belt with the NHS or, with another private practice you may want to work for. But right after you graduate, get some experience first and then set up private practice. So what kind of advice would you give to new grads that are looking to going into private practice?
I would say very much, it's a bit like when you pass your driving test. you're not an accomplished driver at that stage. Okay, you are still a learner. You've just gone from an L plate to a P plate, and you've still got a lot of stuff to learn before you can feel confident and competent. Okay, and the problem with the setup we have at the moment is that you can graduate with your podiatry degree, you get put in a clinic, or you set up your own clinic on your own without support, and you see patients and you don't know what to do. All you know what to do really is the simple stuff, because you're left on your own, and you're going to struggle to develop your treatment plans, your treatment protocols for things that you haven't learned a great deal about.
For sure.
So people then just settle into the comfort zone of, oh, well, I can sort out an ingrown toenail, I know that one, and I can sort out a corn, I know that one. And before you know it, years have passed by, and all you're doing is basic foot care and maybe some nail surgery, and you haven't really embraced what the podiatry degree has given you as an opportunity, and it's just a footing into the profession. And the idea is that once you graduate, you then go on and grow some more. In the same way, if you're a medic and you qualified as a house officer, you then do house officer, senior house officer, registrar, and then consultant or GP. It's a progression. And only when you get to consultant level can you then do private practice. Now you can't do it as a house officer or senior house officer, but podiatrist, you can graduate and just go into private practice. And I think really I would say to anybody is spend the time growing and consolidating your knowledge. And the more that you do that, the more you're going to be able to set up in business and have an amazing, successful, thriving business that doesn't have masses of competition from everybody else doing foot care, because you'll be out there fixing feet. And there's not a massive amount of people truly fixing feet. Work in other practices, not just one, work in lots of other practices, learn as much as you can, spend as much time learning about business as you have about your podiatry. You spend 3 years learning about feet, and then people set up in business having done hardly anything to learn about business. They don't do a 3-year business administration course to learn about it, but actually that's probably what's needed in order to really understand about business. And then you'll be leaps ahead of everybody else if you do all that. And you'll claw back those years so easily by doing it. And there's some absolute stars in the profession that I know who do that, who are invested and now are going into private practice, and they're setting the bar at a brilliant standard for everybody to follow.
Absolutely, 100%. Do you have any kind of recommendations for students that are looking these people up? Like, do you have any recommendations for who these people are and how we can contact them?
So one of the things is just to get on board in social media and put inquiries out, because the recommendations will come out there. They will be out there for people. But if they just reach out to anybody who's vocal about podiatry, then generally the vocal ones are the ones who are trying to do something with the profession. So whether that's myself, Tony Gavin, Dave James, Nicola O'Brien, Nick Knight, Jim Lee, all of these people, we're all passionate about the profession, and you won't go far wrong reaching out to them and learning as much as you can from these guys.
Excellent advice. Do you have any there's this one question that I think was really, really interesting before we move on to the second portion of our interview, but what advice would you give to your younger self?
That's really obvious, because I followed what everybody else did, and which was, when I started, I didn't value myself. Okay, so I looked around what everybody else was charging, because that was what happened, and I went, I'll just go a bit cheaper than everybody else. So I started off charging £10 a private patient. Okay, and that was a long, hard slog out of that rut. Okay, it did me no favors. I'd have been better off waiting a few years before I settled in private practice and learning to value myself more. And then also to work smarter, not harder. I spent a lot of years working hard, thinking hard work gave you the rewards. But actually, it's working smarter that reaps the rewards. For you, for the business, for your life, for the patients, for the profession as a whole.
Work smarter, not harder. That's excellent advice. And I honestly, I think we can all use that, because at this point, we're just taught to work really, really hard. And it's kind of like what they teach us. And I don't mean to throw my university under the bus or anything like that, but we all do this. Even my mom does this as well. And she's like, you need to work really, really hard and you'll get really far in life. And I'm just like, Okay. Yes.
It's quite funny because anybody who goes on to Work Smarter Not Harder course comes off, they put it into practice and they go, my God, that was hard work. And I went, yeah, it wouldn't really sell if I said work smarter and harder. Yeah, but it is true. You know, you've got to put the effort in.
Oh, for sure.
It's not just going to land on your lap, but it's about doing it in an intelligent way. And that means reaching out to others, not putting your own mindset blocks in place. I know that at Northampton last year, I came over and I did a session with them around how to work smarter, not harder for undergraduates, basically. And that went down really well because it's just showing a different mindset to private practice. Because I think private practice in the universities gets a bit of a knock, really, that it's not the best place to be for podiatry. But private podiatry has come on leaps and bounds in lots of areas. And really, it's the absolute future for podiatry, because in private podiatry we treat anything and everything. We're not restricted by NHS services and commissioning.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to our second portion of the interview, which is a little bit less serious. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, go on then.
So the first question is, what is something that everybody looks stupid doing?
Okay, I got two things for you. One is and ties into the previous bit, which is knocking FHPs. Because if they spend their life knocking FHPs, putting all the FHPs into one bracket and saying they're all bad, then they might as well do the same with podiatrists, because there are good FHPs and bad FHPs. There are good podiatrists and bad podiatrists. So that they look stupid when they do it. They can't see it for themselves, but those of us who are a bit more enlightened see it, and it's obvious. And you know that, Hector. You've seen the light. I've heard you interviews. You've seen the light on this. Okay. Yeah. But the other thing that Redwood looks stupid doing is wearing socks with sandals. Okay, that's just crazy.
I've done this one time, and one of my friends was just like, take that off right now. She's like, we're not going out in public if you wear your socks and sandals. But I'm like, I was really comfortable. I look stupid as hell. It was horrible. Yeah, I fully agree with you on that one. What is the funniest joke you know by heart?
Jerk I know by heart. I know a few jokes by heart. That would be an easier one for me to answer, because I'm not a joke person. I don't hold jokes in my head. I really don't mind. The ones that are on my head are really crap. So I went off and found one that may be a bit less crap, but it was actually appropriate. And it's what do they say about podiatrists?
What do they say?
It's a really big feat to become one.
Yes, I love that. I think Ian Riley would definitely enjoy the foot humor for sure.
Yeah.
That's really good. What kind of secret society would you like to start?
Okay, so the obvious one for me that's legal would be
Wait a minute.
a chocolate custard society. Okay,
because
I love chocolate custard. We went to America, and these all the all-you-can-eat buffets, and they'll serve chocolate custard for breakfast. And so I was having chocolate custard for breakfast. I will have it on anything. It's just amazing.
That's fantastic. Oh my God, that would be my dream.
Yeah.
In one sentence, how would you sum up the internet?
that one was really, that was your best friend and your worst enemy.
Oh my God,
That's straightforward.
100%. You say
so
something
much
stupid
for you, but it can take so much away from you as well.
Oh my God, yeah, I agree. I fully agree. That's really good. What's the most embarrassing thing you've done as a teen?
Okay, so I told my patients why I like being a hooker. Now, not a hooker in the way that you just thought, okay? so I was a hooker in rugby, which is the middle of the scrum. Yeah, do you know
what does that mean? You're not helping me here.
Okay, so in rugby you have scrums, which are, you have the forwards and the backs, and the forwards are the ones that form the scrum when they have to throw the ball into the middle of the scrum. And have you ever seen a rugby match at all? No? Okay. Well, basically, the front row, you need to watch a rugby match next time, okay? The front row of a rugby scrum is made up of 3 people, okay? 2 people on either side of the hooker. The hooker's in the middle, 2 people at either side are called the props. and the hooker puts his arms around the props, and they lean down, and the second row come forward and grab onto the props and really create a barrier for the opposing team to push against. Okay, so they come together like that. Okay, and then the hooker, his little leg comes in the middle here, and the ball gets thrown in, and the hooker pulls the ball backwards, to get out the back of the scrum, going out to the back, so that then somebody can then run and score a try. That's the idea. Okay. So I told my parents why I enjoyed being a hooker. Now, we used to play in all sorts of weather, and it was freezing cold, like today. And I said to them, I'd like to be in a hooker because I was kept warm in the scrum, because I had these two big props holding on. I was holding on. I got ribbed for all my teenage years for revealing that to my parents.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my goodness. I think that's all the embarrassing questions I think I'll be asking you today. Before we end this interview, is there anything you'd like to say to students that you think you want them to know?
Podiatry is the best profession that there is. We have so much potential. But you will come across people who limit that potential. You'll limit your own potential. You'll hear stories that put you off doing things, that will put fear inside you. And the best thing you can do is step out your comfort zone, not listen to the naysayers. Go and engage with people who speak the same sort of language as you and have the same ambitions and drive as you, and really you can make it absolutely a profession that's desirable for everybody. And I know that I'm trying to do that by demonstrating what can be achieved with podiatry from a private practice point of view. I know there's some awesome superstars NHS wise, and there's some amazing private practices, but we've got to be desirable. Nobody sits in their school years at GCSEs and goes, right then, I'm on a mission to be a podiatrist. It just doesn't tend to happen. It tends to be a fallback career, like for me. We want to be making that it's a desirable career, and that it's something that people go, actually, I'm not thinking about being a physio, I'm thinking about being podiatrist, because they've got an amazing scope of practice and amazing what they can achieve for themselves and for the patients.
That's really inspiring. That's amazing. Well, I hope any student that's watching this, they take away all the points and kind of go home and reevaluate their own value and how they see the profession, and how they also see the value in themselves when they also graduate. So I think, this is, going to be really, really insightful for them. Again, thank you so much for putting aside some time for me and letting me eat your ear off and ask you all these horrible questions.
It's fine, Hector. And if any of your student listeners want to get together, I can run the workshop over Zoom. There's no charge for the workshop. Smart and Hard for undergraduates. I can run it over Zoom. Just set up a 2-hour session for them, and we can really get them inspired into private practice.
That'd be amazing. Yes, I will definitely put that forward. Absolutely. Thank you again for coming onto my channel and talking to me. For anyone that's watching this, I will link all of Jonathan Small's details, information in the comments section below. So please do go check that out. I hope you all I can't even talk anymore. I hope you all have a lovely, lovely day. Stay tuned for more episodes. Thank you so much, and bye.
Thanks for having me, Hector. It's been brilliant. Thank you.